Hi everyone, and welcome to Sports Watch. If you like content, please press the bell icon for further notifications and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Ilia Topuria has been on the news lately, making some pretty outrageous comments regarding what he would do if you were to face Islam Makhachev. First, at the PBD podcast, he says that he will finish Islam Makhachev with his favorite submission. We'll ask him what his favorite joke is, and then he will finish him with it. And he also said that he will go to the corner and finish him in front of Khabib, just like Khabib used to talk to Dana in between his fights. Ilya says that he will ask Islam about his favorite joke and then submit him in front of Khabib. This is a pretty outrageous statement to make, since Islam has never been submitted by anybody. He has hardly been out-grappled by many people, but Ilia claims to be the person who will submit Islam Makhachev, and that in front of his friend and mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Then he goes to the Joe Rogan podcast and says that he is willing to wait a long time before he can eventually fight for the belt. Now, Ilia Topuria vacated his featherweight title and moved up to lightweight. According to him, he was promised a title shot when he moved up to lightweight. But the current champion, Islam Makhachev, has made it crystal clear that he is not willing to give another 145-pound fighter a chance at his belt unless he can win a number one contender fight. Ilia has 0 fights in the lightweight division, and yet he wants to sit out and fight for the title. And he thinks that he is justified in doing so. What has he done at the lightweight division to demand such a thing? And Islam has a point as well. The last time he fought a featherweight champion, it was Alexander Volkanovski, and he knocked him out within the first 2 rounds. So it was not competitive. And he got a lot of criticism for that. He said that he's not willing to give that same chance to another featherweight. He's wanting to defend in his own division. And if Ilia really wants to have a crack at the title, then he needs to win a couple of fights at 155. Now, Ilia Topuria has had 2 great finishes in his entire career, and that too being 2 future Hall of Famers in Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. That is undeniable. Nobody has even been able to finish those 2 guys at their respective weight classes for a decade, and Ilia did it in consecutive fights. That was a remarkable achievement in itself. Nobody will be able to do that in the future. He was the first guy to knock out Max Holloway. And Max has been fighting in the UFC for an eternity. It has been over a decade and no one has been able to knock down Max Holloway. It was one of his greatest accolades, and Ilia became the first guy to knock him down and knock him out. So that's a huge achievement, and the kind of pop that he got from both those back-to-back fights means that he is now a huge star in the company. But it's also true that Ilia didn't give Volkanovski, the long-standing champion, a rematch. They're supposed to fight at UFC 314 in Miami. But Ilia, instead of fighting Volk, vacated his title. He felt that all his work at 145 was done with the defeating of Holloway and Volkanovski. The reality is, he only faced 2 top guys. He was fast forwarded into a title shot. Yes, he beat both of them, became the champion, defended the belt only once, and then vacated the title. Does this mean he deserves an automatic shot at the lightweight title too? It doesn't work that way. While Islam Makhachev fights anyone at any point of time, He is not willing to give Ilia Topuria the same advantage. Volkanovski had to win so many consecutive fights at his own division before even being considered to fight for a double championship. So, what has Ilia Topuria done to fight for a second belt and that too within such a short span of time? He has only had 7 fights in the UFC. And in those 7 fights, he has had only two spectacular victories against two of the greatest featherweights in the division. But he has had 0 victories in the lightweight division. And he is unwilling to face the likes of Charles Oliveira. He is unwilling to face the likes of Arman Sarukian, a Dustin Poirier, or a Justin Gaethje. He will only fight for the title. This is kind of a ridiculous demand in itself. He feels that he is somehow entitled to call the shots in the UFC when he really isn't. Islam Makhachev is also waiting for the result of the fight between Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena at welterweight. Islam has long stated that he wishes to move up and fight for a second belt. But the only thing that is preventing him from doing so is the fact that Bilal is the champion. Now it's no secret Bilal and Islam have trained together in the past, and Islam and his camp has had a significant role in Bilal becoming the champion. So since there is a personal connection, a friendship between the two, Islam is unwilling to fight Bilal for the belt. And as Khabib made it clear that nothing comes over friendship. And when that man says something, you ought to believe it. Even Khabib acknowledged the fact that Topuria doesn't get a chance to fight at the belt right away. He needs to win a contender fight first. So if Islam were to face Jack Della Maddalena on Jack winning the title, then there's a possibility that he might vacate his lightweight title. Now, Ilia Topuria might be banking on that if Islam were somehow to vacate his title, he might fight for the interim belt. But it's not that easy. Islam Makhachev might not vacate his title. He might want to defend both titles simultaneously at least once. That is also a remarkable piece of achievement. Only a handful of people have done that. So, Ilia is being overconfident right now. Ultimately, it will be down to the UFC to force his hands. Charles Oliveira has already stated that he wishes to fight Islam for the title, and he is reluctant to face Ilia Topuria for a contender's fight. But if there is no choice left, then that might be a good fight to make and see how Ilia does at the lightweight division. Everyone saw what happened to Volkanovski when he went up. Ilia is also a smaller fighter. He used to compete at bantamweight. Then he moved up to featherweight. Now he says that he can no longer move featherweight and he's moving up to lightweight. It's a big jump. And the lightweight division is the deepest division in the UFC, filled with the most competitive and well-rounded fighters. Yes, Ilia Topuria can obviously beat most of them with his skills, but it will be a different challenge altogether. But to say that he is willing to sit out and fight for the belt only sends the wrong kind of signals. This is the same thing that has been happening of late. Sean O'Malley gets an automatic shot at the title against Meraf Dvalishvili after losing to him at UFC Noke at the Sphere. Since then, O'Malley has done nothing. It wasn't even a competitive fight. Meraf clearly dominated him for over 5 rounds. And somehow, Sean automatically gets a shot at the title after waiting on the sidelines for a couple of months. Same thing happened with Israel Adesanya as well. After losing to Sean Strickland, he decides to take a break. Then he comes back and fights Dricus du Plessis for the vacant title. Not the vacant title, for the middleweight title. So it's a wrong precedent that's being set. And somehow Ilia thinks that he is entitled to fight for the lightweight title as well, since he was the featherweight champion. It might be that Ilia may have miscalculated, because if Khabib and Islam are saying that they are not willing to give him a second chance right away, then those guys mean it. They are not going to change their words for anyone. The one thing about Khabib and his camp is whatever they say, they stick to it. And no amount of money, no amount of provocations will make them change their state. So what will happen to Ilia Topuria? He is one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC right now. But the kind of stances that he's taking, it might be proving to be a bit difficult for him to. Everything depends on the fight at UFC 315 between Bilal and JDM. And if Bilal is somehow to lose that fight, which is a rare possibility given this style of Jack Taylor Maddalena, then Islam might just move up and fight for the welterweight title. It's an interesting prospect out there, but right at the moment, the condition with Ilia Topuria is still unclear. He has last fought at UFC 308, and since then he has been waiting on the sidelines, looking to seize his moment. Are the UFC willing to give him another opportunity to fight for a second bell right away? Let me know in the comment section what you feel. And if you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel.